do not respect the Constitution.
Hi, Jake Duesenberg with Action for Liberty. Thanks for tuning into this show where we expose corrupt politicians and the lying corporate media. And we'll do a lot of that today. I'm telling you, we got a really good show. And it's mostly going to talk about Joe Biden and his speech last Thursday. It killed me that we couldn't just come in the studio and record live for you on Friday. And we did do a video with Jesse. If you haven't seen it, it's got a lot of views on Facebook. But we had to run the end of the state fair. I mean, the state fair ended on Monday. We were so busy. So this is our first chance to actually bring everyone in. And joining me in studio today is none other than MAGA Jesse. How you doing, Jesse?
You know, I wish I could say I'm doing good, but I think our country is going down the drain. We see that Joe Biden has become a full-blown dictator, and I'm happy that we're able to expose that to the people here today, but as of now, it's a sad day for our country.
It definitely is, and we'll get into that. So I'm also joined today by Mr. Christian Anarchist, our own Viking, Noah. How you doing, Noah?
I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to this opportunity for people to see that the state is not your friend, especially my Christian brothers and sisters out there.
Gotcha. And then in the control room, we got Dawson, William, and Bridget. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. How you doing, Jake?
Oh, you guys are all in the same scene for once. I can't believe that. You arranged that.
Figured it out.
Very planned, huh?
Wow.
Bridget will be fielding comments, so if you have something you want to say, get on the show. Just write on Facebook if you're watching there or on YouTube. We're streaming on both platforms. We'll be bringing this show to you on other platforms too. By the way, if you can't tell, there's the State Fair sign, which was hanging on Underwood Street for the last 12 days, and we're so happy to have it here in studio. All right, let's get right into this. I mean, this is really important stuff. I personally, Jesse, you know, I wouldn't consider myself a MAGA Republican. I predate the MAGA era, right? You kind of came to legal voting age during Donald Trump's time frame. So you identify, right, as a MAGA Republican?
Especially now. I mean, following the FBI raid, and really what set me into the MAGA ways was the Russiagate narrative, because I was skeptical, like many people, of Donald Trump before he got in there, but once he was in there, he says he wants to make America great again. I don't know who could be against that. So when I started seeing the Russiagate narrative and all of the lies and attacks that they were spewing out against him, and I realized that it was the deep state and the establishment who was targeting him, and that they were really after us, and he was just in the way. So absolutely, I'm a MAGA Republican.
And Bridget, you kind of identify as a MAGA Republican. Is that correct?
Yeah, I definitely came into the movement with Trump, and I'm sticking with him for now.
Right. So, you know, as someone that's more of the liberty bent of the, I guess, Republican Party, if you want to say that, I guess I would consider myself what they call small L libertarian, believe in the principles of liberty. I don't care if you're conservative, you're a MAGA Republican, you all belong in this grassroots movement. And yet we have the President of the United States doing a speech at night saying that tens of millions of Americans are a threat to democracy, an extremist threat to democracy. I couldn't believe what I saw. First of all, I think we were talking about this, Jesse. You didn't believe that this was an official photo. All of a sudden, people are tweeting about it or putting it on social media, and there's this photo of Joe Biden with this very ominous, dark red backdrop. And most people thought this was a doctored photo.
Right.
And it turns out it wasn't doctored. Roll the clip here, Dawson, just to see how Biden sets the stage after he walks out with Jill, and then I think he kisses her and she sits down and he takes front stage. Do we have that clip ready, Dawson?
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat, take it. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America.
Look at that. I mean, getting darker as he's going along. First of all, what is this, long COVID? Why is he coughing all the time? I mean,
Right,
I don't
and-
listen to Biden too much, but how often is he doing that?
And not only is he coughing, the guy who is supposed to be giving us guidance for health and safety, he's coughing right into his hand. He's coughing right into his hand and then going and shaking people's hands. He's a disgusting guy.
You know, I never even thought about that. That's true. I'm
This-
sure you shook hands after that speech.
Of course.
This pillar of human vitality is just oozing health, right? And he's coughing directly onto his hand, his microphone, and I mean, he's giving us one cough per paragraph, so at least he's doling them out, fair and equal.
It's like Tushy's or Liberty Longbeard's HELTH. I love when he does those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously they had planned this thing. They darkened the background, this red, and then
Right.
two Marines standing there, right? Like, can we just all agree, first off, that you shouldn't use our service members in a very partisan political speech, which this thing definitely turned out to be. Everyone knows that. And then, like, on who would have thought this was a good idea to put that as your backdrop? Did you get that photo from V for Vendetta, Dawson? Okay, shoot. Yeah, we came up with that idea in the last bit. You can just look that up. Google V for Vendetta dictator. It's the red colors around it. And we know this. Communist countries, they use red. The idea that they would use that as the backdrop. The party, by the way, that color is blue, right? So you would think that they would actually use blue, or they use a patriotic color, but they use just dark red. So then he goes on to say this. No, I should have given you some time.
Now in our
Well, and to your
time,
point,
Go
as
ahead,
we
go ahead.
build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just, that is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul.
Isn't that funny right there, huh?
But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
All right, so that's the tone of this whole speech. And we're going to, a little later, dig into the bits and pieces of it. But I want to just start with something you're not probably hearing from most other places. I don't know. I don't consume as much media as some of you probably do, mostly because I got too much going on and I want to spend time with my family, those other extremists. But I don't think you're hearing this from a lot of places. These guys are full of shit. And here's how we know they're full of shit. There's either one or two things that have happened. Either he doesn't actually believe that tens of millions of Americans are extremist, and so the whole speech, when you look at it, is just a big lie. Or the Democrat Party has aided and embedded the biggest threat to democracy. And here's what I mean by it. In June, July, it was revealed that the Democrats, even all the way up to Pelosi, had a strategy of getting MAGA Republicans to win their primaries because they looked at them as easier targets to take out in the general election. So they're actually propping up MAGA Republicans, the ones that we're led to believe are so dangerous to America and to a republic. So let's pull up MSNBC, which, by the way, where are they getting the talking points from? Probably MSNBC, right? They're all thinking alike. So MSNBC, what do they have to say about this strategy?
This is Republican State Senator Doug Mastriano. He's the Republican who's ahead in the polls for governor. He wants to outlaw abortion. It's Mastriano who wrote the heartbeat bill in Pennsylvania, and he's one of Donald Trump's strongest supporters. He wants to end vote by mail, and he led the fight to audit the 2020 election. If Mastriano wins, it's a win for what Donald Trump stands for. Is that what we want in Pennsylvania?
All right, so that ad that you just saw there, that was paid for by Josh Shapiro's campaign. He is the Democratic nominee for governor in Pennsylvania. It ran as the Republican primary race for Pennsylvania governor was actually heating up back in May. And as it turned out, Doug Mastriano won that primary. And it seems like the money Democrats spent on the attack ad it might have actually helped Mastriano win that race, perhaps because some Republican voters wanted a win for what Donald Trump stands for. And now Mastriano, a far-right candidate, has a real shot at the governor's office. He is now polling within the margin of error of Democratic nominee Josh Shapiro and is busy courting establishment GOP donors. Now, Democrats are running the same playbook in Maryland, with one Democratic group spending more than $1 million on advertising that elevated Republican candidate for governor Dan Cox, promoting his ties to Trump as well as his pro-life and Second Amendment stance. Apparently, a lot of Maryland Republicans were actually into that description. Yesterday, Dan Cox won the Republican primary for governor of Maryland, defeating the current Republican governor's protege by a 16-point margin. Now, here's a little background on Mr. Cox for you. He is an election denier. Not only did he attend the White House Ellipse rally on January the 6th, he helped send buses of protesters to attend that rally. And he also called Mike Pence, the vice president of the United States, a traitor and argued that President Biden was, quote, installed in the White House. He promised to do a forensic audit of the 2020 election ban and to ban abortion, among other things, if he wins office. Cox has also managed to be a bit of a nuisance to Governor Hogan for years now. He has most recently tried to impeach the governor over his COVID-19 public health measure.
Honestly, I agree with a lot of those things, right?
Right, exactly. And the Democrats don't even understand what they've done when they try to prop up these people like Doug Mastriano, because Doug Mastriano is not some kooky guy. He's someone that is about to be Pennsylvania's next governor. And the Democrats, like you said, they are lying. They're not actually believing that MAGA people are extremists or threats to our country. What they're doing is they're propping them up because they think they're going to be easier to beat. But actually, that's not the truth. When people have the energy and excitement around their campaign like Doug Mastriano does, that's the kind of threat that they don't understand is coming to them. Doug Mastriano will win. And the original person they pulled this on was, of course, Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton had told the media to prop up Donald Trump's campaign because that is who she wanted to run against. And thank God she did, because we were able to secure that win for Donald Trump and make sure that Hillary Clinton, that evil witch, never got into the White House.
That's good. It's actually a good point there.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the speech, you heard Biden say, you know, what's happening in America is not normal. And when you first hear that, you figure maybe someone finally told him about drag queen story hours. But the reality is he's saying people like Doug Mastriano aren't normal. And ostensibly, he's just a normal American guy that has the same values that 80% of the people in this country do, which is I want food on my table, I want lower gas prices, and I would like it if my kids weren't in danger on the way to school.
Or indoctrinated in their schools.
Right,
or
right.
can afford
Such extremist points to have.
Right.
And yeah, it's crazy that he's isolating us.
Well, so I think you're onto something, Jesse, and even some Democrats are realizing this strategy has some dangers because potentially these guys could get elected. So ABC reports on that. Go ahead and roll that clip for us, Dawson.
The effort is to choose a more extreme candidate in an effort to go up against them in the general election rather than going against a moderate candidate that might be tougher competition. But what's new this time around is the fact that there are lots of candidates who are espousing election lies about the 2020 election. It is the notion of our democracy really being on the line. And so there are lots of folks who are pointing to this and saying that it is like playing with fire. And that's if it works at all.
Which it obviously could work. That's why the strategists in the Democrat Party want to do it. So here's the question then. Was he just full of shit in that speech, or are they aiding and abetting the largest threat to democracy? Which one is it? It's like basically being revealed.
Full of shit. 100% full of shit. He's a puppet that's being told to read the script. He's full of shit.
And here's what I want to know, Jesse. Like, do they really think this is going to work in America? Like, aren't they just talking to their base here? Do independents really fall for this crap at this point?
You know, I don't know. I wish I had the answer too, because I'm definitely not falling for it. I don't know anyone that's falling for it other than people that have already fallen for every single thing that they've tried before. So it seems to me like you're saying they're just going back to their clueless base.
Right.
I just want to come in for a quick fact check on that, Jesse. To say Biden is full of shit isn't quite accurate. We've heard about the stories with the Pope. I think full is an overstatement. He has quite a problem keeping it in.
I don't even know what you're referencing there.
Because he said Biden's full of shit, and he crapped himself in front of the Pope. he
He
wishes he could
There
be
you go.
full
There's
of
the
shit.
context. I was wondering what that was.
Right. Biden
That's
comes
right.
in wearing a black suit, comes out wearing a tan suit. Why did he change suits? Nobody
I
knows.
forgot about that. You know, remember when what's his name? Ralph Nader. Jerry Nadler. Jerry Nadler shit his pants.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we certainly sharded. Which is, well, do I need to describe that to the audience?
Man wears his pants too high. You're never getting a second use out of a pair from Jerry.
Just
Nadler.
YouTube it. Jerry Nadler, and honestly, it's unbelievable that Democrats kept going on with that press conference. Of course, I'm sure they're saying the same things about Rudy Giuliani these days in his press conferences. So it seems like a lot of old school politicians are having trouble with bodily functions. Let's get back on the important stuff of the day. But good one, Noah. I'll give you a point for that one. It's insane to think that this guy is telling America, and this is the Marines are out there. This is in front of Independence Hall, right, in Philadelphia, and he's actually gaslighting all of America, telling them that this one part of our country that's tens of millions of people strong. I don't even know how much we would say. I've seen people say, like, it's all the vote of Donald Trump. It's not all the vote of Donald Trump, but it's tens of millions of Americans. We have to at least admit that's what he's saying, is tens of millions of Americans are this grave threat. And yet they're helping these people win primary elections. So, like, what are you going to aid and embed ISIS as well? Actually, you know, now that I think about it, the Obama-Biden administration did aid and abet Mexican cartels with what was that? Fast and Furious
with Attorney General. Oh man, his name just Eric Holder.
Eric
Eric Holder. That's right. Yeah, they were aiding and abetting the people at the border, and they were helping these cartels. And yeah, you're exactly right. They were doing exactly that. And then when he got in front of Congress to testify, he doesn't know anything anymore. So
I know,
it's ridiculous.
I think it's important to add even like a little more context to this about, like, to even go further with what you were saying about the 50 million people plus, you know, that are in this election. Let's steelman our opponent. Let's say, like, you know, only 20% of people in this country voted for Trump. That's absurd. Way more people did, but let's give them that. 20% of this country is still tens of millions of people, and that's still people who are not, you know, to just be depersonized and to get absolutely trod underfoot by the government.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
human
glad
beings
you
with
said
rights.
that. Dehumanizing people,
Yeah.
which is, you know, you've seen the people out there making references to Hitler and other dictators, and we just even admitted that it's like eerily like V for Vendetta, the dictator in that movie. Actually, book too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Book, yeah. I don't read. I listen to audiobooks. So, like, what else are you going to say? He's dehumanizing. He's calling these people threats. The office of the presidency has literally mentioned threats to America as like animals, right? I think George Bush referred to these terrorists as like they're dehuman, right? That's generally what you do with your opponents, especially when you're a dictator, is dehumanize them. It's like what they're trying to do.
I mean, like you were talking about the Obama and Biden administration. I mean, they straight up just executed Omar Malaki, who was on a kill list, who was an American citizen. And yeah, he was really big into radical Islam and all that, and I don't agree with that, but he's an American citizen who has rights, and he has to go through a trial and have his rights respected and be convicted by a jury of his peers. And instead, he was summarily executed by a drone from thousands of miles away by one of the, you know, neoliberal elites that wants to preach human rights and equality.
Right, and it was the Obama-Biden administration that was spying on countless Americans through the NSA spying program, which we wouldn't even known about if Edward Snowden didn't leak it. And now he actually has to live in Russia because we want to prosecute a guy revealing how these guys weren't following the letter of the law. Speaking of letter of law and the Constitution, what does MSNBC have to say about these radical extremist MAGA Republicans? Because obviously they got to believe something crazy. So here's MSNBC describing, they're using the Attorney General candidate in this clip. This is just an extension from that clip we showed earlier. But this is what he believes, and this is what the MAGA Republicans believe.
To sharpen this image of Christian nationalism for you a little bit more, this is a guy who founded the Institute on the Constitution, which believes, and again, I'm quoting here, there is a God, our rights come from him, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. That is the kind of candidate who is now on the ballot for state office in the great state of Maryland.
What do you say at this point?
I mean, they are now calling people who want freedom fascism. What that quote was exactly the truth. That's how our country was founded, on our God-given rights, and that it's the government's job to respect them and not abridge them and not overstep our boundaries. We have individual rights that are guaranteed through God. And just by saying that MSNBC has a problem with it, that proves that they are on the wrong side of history and that they don't even understand the purpose of what the government is and why it was founded.
Well, and plus, they have a problem with the Declaration of Independence, which acknowledges that there is a God, there's a creator, and our rights come from that creator. And then the purpose of the Constitution is not to grant rights, but to protect the God-given rights or our natural rights. So those are the three main points of the founding of this country. And MSNBC goes, oh, this is what these guys believe in. It's so extreme.
I mean, coming from an actual Christian right-wing extremist, not the made-up stuff that they talk about. Yeah, I mean, he's talking mainline American conservatism, the basis of what, our entire country was founded on. And he's right. I mean, our founding fathers believed and at least recognized a God in our documents. And if you're going to take the assumption that civil government it has a purpose, that should be the purpose to protect our rights given from God or nature. Yeah. I mean, I think that civil governments are never civil and always occupy violence and tread on the rights of the people. But if you're going to take that assumption, yeah, it should be at least to protect our rights. But that's being viewed as some farcical, extreme position to hold.
But see, exactly, because that's the modern left. The modern left is there's no God, there's no religion. They want this. They shut down shut down churches during COVID, kept liquor stores wide open, right? That tells you everything you need to know about the Democrat Party, because these are Democrat governors, and maybe probably Mike DeWine as well in Ohio. So I'm still Democrat. We could use that term with him, right?
Right.
So that's the way they look at this thing, is that there's no God, there's no religion. We got to ignore that, even though there's a lot of religious people. And they're just basically wanting to silence us. They want to call us extremists. And knowing that what we know now, does this permeate into the social media platform? Does Zuckerberg get another thing from the FBI saying you got to be careful about these extremists? Can't get their message out anymore.
I mean, that's why I sit so fervently where I am on just, no king but Christ. That's where I am, because it's just when you look at the way that governments operate, there is no space for them to occupy your loyalties when it comes to who you truly want to support. And that is just the truth. I mean, look at what they've done in China. When we're talking about depersonifying, they start by depersonifying the enemy. And then it eventually gradually goes all the way down to the individual, and they depersonify you. They take away your personhood, to where the individual in China, not only do they not recognize the personhood of their peers, but they don't recognize their own personhood. Right. They have no real concept of individual rights, the self, liberty. They want to grind that away from you. It's funny that they say we're all coming together, but then they isolate us to the point where we no longer have connection to anybody around us, and then we lose connection to ourselves.
Yeah, and can we just call that bullshit at this point, this whole unity? Like, oh, well, we got to get rid of Donald Trump. He's such a divider. And it's like, I don't think I've seen a more divisive speech than this right here. This is insane.
Enforced unity is prison.
So foundational to America. Like, it's just, I can't stress this enough. What MSNBC just said about these views being extreme is exactly what's embedded in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We often have this debate on the right. People will say, well, our rights in the Constitution are constitutional rights. And there's no rights in the Constitution. The rights come from a creator. It predates the writing of the Constitution. It's just the fact that our system of government is supposed to protect those rights that already predate it.
Yeah.
And all those rights, by the way.
And they want to hide the ugly truth that it does not get more unified than being in a prison camp, right? Everyone's under the same banner in the same location. That's about as unified as you can get. And they want to hide the dirty secret of what their end game is to have you totally locked down, never having any real freedom, because that's too much chaos for them to calculate in their little globalist schemes. They don't like the variables. And to them, you're a variable. You're not a person with rights. You are a problem to be solved.
Yeah, and I'd almost say like you're wearing a tinfoil hat. You're loyal to foil here. But
Amen.
then again, you watch the speech, and let's go dissect this here. So let's cue up that first video for us, Dawson. Let's dissect this speech and just look at the things this guy says in the half hour that he was there. It's unbelievable. It's so far radical and extreme. I guess I can kind of believe it. I can kind of believe it nowadays. After COVID, I can kind of believe it. But it's still so crazy that we're listening to a president say this. So go ahead and roll that first clip.
There are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We here, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
A historical note, there's been a lot of violence in America. The founding of this country was violent. It was a war. There was a civil war. Alexander Hamilton died by a duel. So there's violence in America. But I think that's a generally good and accepting statement most of us can agree on.
Right, if only he meant it. If
Yes.
only he meant it, and if only he was applying that consistently, because the true patriots like me understand that no property should have been damaged on January 6th. We were the ones who were saying, don't go in there. We were the ones who were saying that it should remain calm and peaceful, just like Donald Trump said. And if Joe Biden were to apply this consistently, that means that he would have been calling out Black Lives Matter. That means he would have been calling out Antifa. That means he would have been calling out the craziness within the streets where they took over Seattle and made their own little communist town. So that means Joe Biden would be applying it equally, and of course he doesn't.
I mean, come on, guys. Look, I mean, he's serious now. Daddy used his outside voice, right? When he said there's no place for political violence. I mean, but of course, we're to blame for everything that happens. Let's not talk about the businesses that are burned down here in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
And,
Right.
and the no-go zones, which they even had a no-go zone right here in Minnesota, too. But the Seattle, what was that one called?
Chaz and then Trump.
Chaz.
Right.
Yeah, that was so crazy. The violence against the Supreme Court, or at least violent rhetoric against Supreme Court justices. Didn't they have, wasn't it Ted Cruz or some senator that at like a restaurant they went in? All the Antifa. That started in 2016 when Trump got elected.
Right, Rand Paul walking out of the Republican National Convention
go.
was swarmed by Antifa and all kinds of crazy liberals who wanted to attack him and his wife. All the cops were trying their best to protect them, and these people are crazy. They could have killed him right then and there, all because he wants to fight for our freedom.
Yeah, and then we're getting lectured on the right, I guess is the way you put it. And we're getting lectured on violence, which is absolutely insane. This guy has got more blood on his hands, or at least the left's got more blood on their hands than anyone on the modern right. Doesn't mean that the right can't be violent. There's no doubt that it can be. But by doing something like this, it's only going to stoke those flames. That's the thing. If this guy really hates political violence, don't be saying stuff like this and dividing tens of millions of Americans. It's almost like, Jesse, when you see the backdrop, the red backdrop, and him saying this, like he wants it.
Right, exactly. And that's why my message is this. Stay calm, stay vigilant, and stay alert of what's going on, because they're pushing us. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They want us to crumble. They want us to do something stupid, get out of line, and that way they can use that against us going into these midterms. Stay calm. Go to the ballot box. Vote for MAGA people, because we need to restore our country.
Don't back down. And to talk about the point you were talking about earlier with Rand Paul, to prove like why placating your enemies doesn't actually solve your problems. He was chased out as a racist and being harassed by that mob, and could have been executed if they got what they wanted. And this is the guy who sponsored the Breonna Taylor bill.
That's
himself.
right. They were
the
saying,
bill,
say her name.
Say her name. And he sponsored the bill named after her about police reform, so we don't have raids on people's houses without warrants. Literally doing the exact thing that they wanted, and they want to put him on a pike as an enemy. So you can't really make friends with a lot of
And
these
no one
people.
accused these guys of being smart, right?
Right? Yeah.
Play the next clip there for us, Dawson.
But democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today.
Did I just sleep and dream up that in 2017 and 2018 and maybe in 2019, all we heard from the media and the Democrats was Russia, 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 as Trump would say, that this election was stolen, that Hillary didn't actually lose, it wasn't fair, and Russia basically stole election on behalf of Donald Trump. Did I not hear that? Was I sleeping? Did I just
And not
dream this
only
up?
that, they tried to impeach him for it too. And guess what? He was innocent, just like everything else they accuse him of. So big surprise, they now have this standard where they want to say that, in 2016 it was the most rigged election in history, and then 2020, now that was the most secure, despite all of the absentee ballots that were being sent out to people's dogs, dead people, and everyone who didn't even want an absentee ballot. People going to the ballot box saying, "You've already voted." "No, I didn't. I don't fill out absentee ballots." "Well, it shows in our records you've already voted." People are having all kinds of stories like that from place to place to place. And then we see in certain states like Georgia that the ballots get counted twice. There's videos of it, people being told, the ballot observers, that they have to leave. There's a flood going on in the basement, and there's no flood. There's all kinds of crazy things going on. And, of course, he wants to say that we're just claiming it's cheating because we're sore losers. Not at all. We're saying it was cheating because there was cheating.
Yeah, I mean, really, I was trying to be moderate on this issue when it first happened, but, the old adage is, those who sit on the fence are doomed to be impaled by it. And I started talking to my mom after the 2020 election, and she was telling me about, in California still, like blue of all blue states, that they still had 2 ballots sent to my mother, who's registered as a Democrat, so that she can get all the information from the Democrats, and my father's registered as a Republican. Now, mind you, my dad is 54, and he's been voting since he was 18. And they went to the booth to go vote in person. My mother had no issue voting. And my dad was told he's not registered to vote. And they actually made him re-register at the polls. And that was the case with not just him, but about 8 to 10 other conservatives behind him. And this is my own parents telling me this story about what they experienced at the polls. So it became very real that not even in swing states, but even in states where it's secure like California and the Central Valley, they still suppress the vote.
Yeah, and I think we have to just admit at this point that it's a statement of fact that the election was rigged. And what I mean by that is they changed election laws. And those election laws clearly benefited one side. That's why they did this.
And sometimes illegally changed the election laws. They did it without the state legislature's approval. Sometimes it was just governors on their own.
Right, exactly. Well, in Secretary of States.
Right.
Yep.
And they just like to play it off as a whoopsie, because I guarantee if my mom made us think about the double ballots, they'd be like, whoops, we sent you 2. And then the other half of that sentence is, would have been a shame if you accidentally sent in both.
Right.
Like, they try to be so innocent and like it's, just a bureaucratic mistake.
Well, they can always just say, well, we're making it as easy. Don't you want everyone to vote? That's kind of their moniker. It's just like, no, like.
Nope, don't.
People need to work to go vote, like to make it so easy for everyone to do this. It's like,
when you have no barrier to entry, you're going to get
the
low
worst.
quality products. So when you
Right.
have no barrier to entry to voting, you have no real work or effort that gets put into going and exercising your civil duties, you're going to get people who frankly don't care. And you're going to get people who are willing to frankly sell their votes for a $1,000 Walz check, for example.
They know this. They know this, and that's why they do it. All right, we got another clip. Oh, we got a comment? What do you got?
We have
Go
a
ahead.
comment from Nancy on YouTube.
By the way, can you guys hear Bridget's voice? You know why you can't hear
Guys.
Bridget's voice? She worked all 12 days of the state fair. You'd never guess that you would lose your voice from the state fair.
I lose my voice like 20 times a year, probably.
Oh, there you go.
So, easily done.
Even I almost lost it. It was close. Talking all day, every day to some of the most fun people on both sides.
Yes. All right, what's the comment?
But
What did Nancy have to say?
Says, Of course, it's perfectly fine that they have contested numerous elections with great hate and energy, but you must admit that it was Trump that handed a precedent-setting election. 30-day mail-in. Did he really believe it wouldn't be fraud, I'm guessing with fraud? Didn't do a thing to stop it. So.
Wait, say that again. So she's saying that Trump set the precedent for the mail-in ballots. How was that?
Well,
as her spokesperson, Bridget, can't you answer that?
no, I'll give that one to Jesse.
Have Nancy write in, because I am a little confused by that, because it seemed like all these things were done at the state level. And so, you don't really want the President of the United States interfering with elections. That's like, well, that would almost be an extremist dictatorial decree that we're getting accused of, even though we're not doing it. That's the other thing that's fascinating about this is who's the extremist? Who's the dictator here? Joe Biden, the guy that wants to take away the most common sportsman rifle. He's talking about coming back in September and infringing on your right to keep and bear arms.
I mean, this is in modern memory still. This is still within our week. I can remember exactly. I was making phone calls during primary campaigns for different Liberty candidates across the country at this time when the election laws were changing, because I had to adapt what I was saying on the phone to the people based on their changing election laws. And at that time, Trump was not talking about election laws. That was a state's issue. What he was talking about was arguing over the size of the socialist checks that were given out to all the workers that have almost destroyed our economy. Which is I think a point worth talking about, but he certainly wasn't talking about election laws.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump always has been extremely clear that he doesn't like the mail-in ballots, that he thinks that people should be voting in person on election day. I don't think he's ever said anything that would make us think that he doesn't believe that. And he has always been arguing that these states are running corrupt processes if they are circumventing their own laws and their own constitution so that they can allow for these absentee ballots to be sent out at will, or not even at will, just sent out to everybody. So I am curious as to what this comment is pertaining to, but
okay,
yeah.
So we do have a follow-up.
Well, it looks like we've already entered the Stump the Trump segment of the show, and she's got a good one. It's really got Jesse up in a tizzy here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bridget gave me the headphones because, her voice is bothering her.
We noticed.
Nancy says that the president had a bully pulpit, could have influenced it by discussing the pitfalls, said nothing, and let it slide. She follows up by saying he lodged no resistance to it.
I think she's got a point there, Jesse. How do you respond to that?
I'm just confused still. I mean, Donald Trump was always against these absentee ballots, and there's certain things that the president, you're right that he does have the bully pulpit and he can talk about it and mention it, but it's up to the legislatures to convene, or it's up to the governor to allow the legislature to convene so that they can address these things. But it's true that so many of the governors and secretaries of states violated their own state constitutions. They destroyed the electoral process and gives us a lot less faith in it. So I'd have to maybe go back on that, but I thought that Donald Trump was always saying that these absentee ballots were crooked.
Yeah, I seem to recall him making a lot of statements ahead of time. Something like, well, if I lose, it was rigged, or something like that. I think he predated it. But you also got to be careful. Like, if you're Trump, to just say that, it might actually be like found distasteful with a lot of independent voters, right? Because at that point, you actually want a message that gets out to voters that gets you the win.
Well, I mean, and he's wearing.
That's an interesting point.
He's also wearing out his future talking points before they need to be. He's already he's running out the mileage on the it was stolen before it was stolen. So then you're going to have tone deafness to your entire message after it's stolen, because you've been saying it the whole time running out.
But he even said it in 2016 too, that he thought that if he didn't win it, it was going to be because it was rigged for Hillary, and of course, I'm sure they tried there too, but I don't think they understood the amount of the grassroots movement that there actually was for Donald Trump, and that they had to double down for Joe Biden to make sure that one went through for him. And that's why the COVID thing was so perfect for them. It allowed them to cheat, and for so many of us not to even see it.
Yeah, it's almost like there's that conspiracy in you. Like, was it all planned for that very reason?
It certainly was. China. It's up to. I mean, China. They benefited from this. China Joe and Hunter Biden. They're the perfect people for China to have implement their agenda and allow the destruction of our country. So China's
I don't see Trump losing to Joe Biden in 2020 had that not happened.
Right.
Because
there was no doubt.
Economy's booming. Trump looks like he's off to the races to win in November by huge margin. and then you get COVID.
Yep.
And then you learn that it was actually a leak from the Wuhan lab. It's just like, was it an unintentional leak? Which I generally believe it's unintentional, but you kind of wonder.
Yeah, I don't.
The fate of our country lies in the shaky hands of an invalid and his crackhead son. It's crazy to think.
Well, that's the other thing was the election rigged? Yes, the election was rigged. The mainstream media did not tell us about the Hunter Biden story. Oh, well, that's the media. They can choose what they want to do. Then we find out from Mark Zuckerberg that the FBI went to social media platforms and said, this is fake news. Don't let this thing be distributed. So the FBI, their own government, is basically working against one side of the election. It's absolute insanity.
And some theories out there is that the FBI already had Hunter Biden's laptop as they were telling Facebook and Twitter that this was Russian disinformation. So if they had the laptop and they were claiming it was still Russian disinformation, that's exact proof that they were lying and that they were trying to cost Trump the election. And they didn't want any of this dirt to be leaked out onto Hunter Biden before the election, because obviously it would have destroyed Joe Biden.
And if they're so plainly lies, why on earth are you so afraid of them getting out? If these are such cartoonish, absurd conspiracy theories, why not open the briefcase and let all the snakes pop out, right? Like, it shouldn't be that risk. If it is indeed nothing, let us figure out that it's nothing, right? Come on, government. If you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to hide.
Guys, are we in the Stump the Trump segment? Because we do have more anti-Trump comments coming in if we want to read them off.
Well, I guess we could, yeah.
So we've brought up this one before, but Jesse, I want to ask you again. Nancy brought this question up. How could you still support Trump when he continues to push the toxic jab even now after the children? It ends there, after the children.
Okay.
The Jones take.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I never got the jab. I don't ever plan to, and Donald Trump has always given me the choice. So that's why I can continue to support him, and also because Operation Warp Speed was designed to end this whole COVID mess. Donald Trump didn't want to keep doing this forever and ever and ever. And so he was trying to move things along, trying to get this over with, and that was his plan. He's not a scientist. He's not the one who's in there cutting the, molecules to design this vaccine. No, he's just a businessman who's saying, let's get this over with and let's get it distributed. He understands in terms of business how to move things along and for production scale. So I'm not mad at him for anything like that. He was doing what he thought was best, and he always gave us the option to do it or not. And I think that he was always skeptical of vaccines for children. If you go back to the 2016 debates, there's various clips where Donald Trump is saying that he believes that things should be given out over a longer period of time. He's giving medical advice that you don't necessarily hear from mainline politicians. So Donald Trump has his own skepticisms and everything with these shots. So he can believe what he believes on that one. I'll believe what I believe on that one. As long as he's giving me the freedom to choose what I want, that's good by me.
Well, I think that's a good point. And this is, I think the last clip that we have, Dawson, is what Biden is actually saying about the MAGA extremists in his own words, which is fascinating to me because last I checked, there was one president that actually mandated vaccines, and that was not Donald Trump. Do we have that clip ready? Go and play that.
Because do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election.
I mean, what do you say to that? Like, they don't respect the Constitution, and this is the president that had a Supreme Court say your vaccine mandates were unconstitutional.
Right. Joe Biden is the last person to say anything about the Constitution. Him and Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them, all they do is trample the Constitution. They don't have any respect for our rights between free speech, which is obvious that they don't want us to be able to speak and have our minds and think freely. The Second Amendment, like you mentioned earlier, they're trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. Right to privacy. You just go down the line, amendment after amendment, right after right. They want to trample it. They want to take it away. They don't care about our freedom. They don't care about our God-given rights, and they want to subvert us into thinking that they're the ones who protect the Constitution. No chance in hell. There's never been a time where they have been the constitutionalists in the room.
Never. And in fact, we just saw that MSNBC clip. They basically don't care about the Constitution because they think it's extreme that there's a God that's acknowledged and that God gives us rights that are protected by our government. That's the Constitution in a nutshell. So they think that's a radical thing. They'll still evoke the Constitution when it benefits them, but that's literally them revealing themselves. That's where we have gone in this society. And that's why I think that speech is so dangerous. And I don't think, well, you guys watching a lot of the media coverage? William, you probably watch media coverage. Like, what are they saying? What's the mainstream media? Are they even talking about the dangers of that speech? Are they saying anything about it?
Oh, I'm sure they're just fanning the flames. But William, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're trying to cover for Biden right now. If you guys saw that CNN clip from a couple of days ago when this whole speech was being broadcast live, CNN actually color corrected the live stream so that the red wasn't as red. It looked more normal.
You gotta be kidding me.
They clearly recognize the optics of this thing, and they know that Biden's going off, but they're still going to cover for him. It's ridiculous.
And they love color correcting at CNN. Remember when they talked about Joe Rogan getting ivermectin and they're like, he's taking hog dewormer? They literally show an image of Joe Rogan and they make his face look pale. I love how Joe Rogan actually shows the side-to-side images, and it's so obvious. That's what they did. They did a color correction on him.
Right. That's the definition of fake news.
Yeah.
It's fake news. They are readjusting things so that it fits their narrative and that it's not as harsh of an image for us to look at, or it's harsher if they want to make Joe Rogan look like he's not doing too well after taking some ivermectin. But there's lots of people who have taken ivermectin, and they're feeling great after COVID. So it's funny, but you're 100% right. It's fake news.
And I mean, from the media coverage that I've seen, it's been basically just a lot of people trying to say that they are minusing essentially everything that had to do with the division he just sowed and the hate he bred in his popular base. And they are highlighting where he says not all Republicans, really. Not all Republicans, right?
Right, the Liz Cheneys, the ones that are secretly Democrats, by the way.
Yeah, that's what all the news media pundits are highlighting. It was very presidential of him to try to unify, to let people know that not all Republicans are this way, and they want to try to make it seem like he's some sort of Dr. King-esque figure of he's trying to bring us all together. But in reality, it's just the most paltry attempt at covering for a senile old man who's being used by much more powerful elements to destroy what is the last bastion of freedom.
Right, exactly that, because he is being used. He is a puppet. This isn't Joe Biden's words. This is a script that he was being handed. And like we mentioned right on the beginning of this show, that a lot of us couldn't believe when we saw the pictures of what was going on that this speech was real. Maybe some of you have heard of the Dark Brandon memes that are out there. It's something that started out as some weird thing on the left where they were making Joe Biden look very powerful in these memes. Some of them were actually kind of funny. I could get a chuckle here and there. And once it got to his handlers, a lot of people from the White House, they started sharing around these Dark Brandon memes, and I think it got to their head. They wanted to implement Dark Brandon in real life, and that's what they did. They implemented a dictator within that speech. They've turned Dark Brandon into a reality.
I mean, one of Biden's most famous lines, not a joke, right? He
Right.
told you at the front of it, not a joke, Dark Brandon, we're coming.
Yep.
I think we can finish up the Stump Trump segment, but I think it's really important to mention something here is that, we need people like MAGA Republicans in our big grassroots movement, and these are good people. Like, I remember when the MAGA movement started, because I was very skeptical of Trump, and I still am to this day, by the way, because, he doesn't have ideological consistency. And I don't think MAGA Republicans in general have ideological consistency as a movement. I come from like the Ron Paul libertarian movement, right? Which I think are very principled libertarians. You have just people who love America. And that's why I've always got along with MAGA Republicans. These are really good people, and they're just normal people. And a lot of them are new to politics. There's just no core ideology there. And that's totally fine, because that's actually more normal to not have some core ideology. The thing that ties them together is their love for America, make America great again, right? That's what MAGA stands for.
Yep.
And rule of law and the Constitution. And it's just unbelievable that the Democrat Party, the modern Democrat Party, thinks that's extreme, and they just admit it, as we played on that MSNBC clip.
Right, and I'll tell you, there isn't a whole lot of difference between MAGA and liberty in my mind, because a lot of the MAGA people, they would define themselves as small L libertarians or liberty conservatives, or just freedom is one of their top priorities and principles. And I don't see too much of a difference. Obviously, libertarianism, it gets more into the weeds of things, the principles, the ideologies, and everything else. The MAGA movement skips all of that. As long as you like freedom, you're good to go. That's all you need to do.
I think at the base, yeah, I 100% agree. And that's as someone who is, against government in its entirety. Jake was saying he's small L libertarian. I'm no L libertarian. I don't want any government, right? And I still think that we can all come to a basic unifying principle that lets us agree, and that with MAGA Republicans, libertarians, constitutional conservatives, what have you, and that's that we all agree on this, and that's that property rights are ultimate. They matter. Your property, your body, your family, those are sacred. You have a right to protect them. Nobody can come and take them from you, including the government, without due cause. Mm-hmm. And that is what has built Western civilization, and that is what has made America such a factor in the modern times. And that is what we're trying to hold on to, and that's what the left is against. And so that's why, even as someone who doesn't like the government at all, and someone who has plenty of complaints about Donald Trump as a flawed man, I am more than happy to allow them to come into our tent, because we at least agree that we should have property and a civil society.
And it's a pretty positive movement, too. Do we have any other comments, William?
We don't have anything for Stump the Trump.
Oh.
We do have, and guys, get your comments in on Facebook and YouTube. We're checking both. But Bucky says, well, rather asks, what are your thoughts on the WCCO accidentally cutting out Jensen's interview right when he talked about Walz wanting to do a debate a whole month after early voting has started? Speaking of fake news.
Dawson, can we do on the fly? Can you go to Jensen's YouTube channel and pull up, I think it's a video. William could probably help, because we posted this on our Facebook page. I think it was on our Facebook page. I don't know if you can pull up our Facebook page and do it, but one of the others. It's a great comment, Bucky. So did you guys see this? It was
absolutely.
Sunday morning or something like that. Esme Murphy, who's just such a, good God. Like, that's the quality of journalists we have in Minnesota. You ever see the segment she did with Neil Shaw, Dr. Neil Shaw?
Yeah, I've seen that. Just ridiculous.
One of the worst interviews ever. Like, just show there's disdain for anyone like Neil Shaw, which probably makes her racist. Wouldn't it make her racist?
Yeah, we could use that.
I must have to look into it, yeah. So, are we good? You got it? All right, there you go, Dawson. Go ahead and play that so we can see what they're referencing.
At this time 4 years ago, Tim Walz had participated in 4 debates. He's absolutely been shutting him down. He wants to do this one debate so far into just before Halloween, and you know that he's actually using you to put out his message that I want to debate. He doesn't want.
Just wait. Just let it go.
Looks like we lost that feed right there. You were just hearing from
No,
Dr.
just
Scott
wait.
Jensen, and we're going to continue to update you online on this ongoing election. Okay, there is a new round of COVID boosters, and it's about to begin. We're going to tell you where and when you can sign up.
All right, cut it off. See, like, come on. Like, you lost the feed, and then, the next segment is COVID boosters.
They cut to an ad. A Walz ad, an anti-Jensen ad, talking about abortion. I don't know if that's included.
Is that on that clip? I didn't even see that. I don't think I... Go ahead, play that. I thought they were done with the clip.
Here, fast forward a little
Fast
bit.
forward.
See if...
I mean,
I didn't even know that.
I would like to just know.
Ask Gary.
Yeah.
Students. Yeah, there it is.
As a former teacher,
Oh,
Governor Walz
God.
does what's right for our
Jeez,
kids.
Jake, do your
He
homework. Watch the
Former
whole
teacher
thing.
for
I didn't even
China?
see that. I just assumed it was a commercial. They were bad at editing.
He said former teacher, didn't mention China, where he taught.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first teachers the CCP took under their wings.
That's right.
I mean,
I think you're being loyal to foil now. Although you learned a couple lessons, I guess. From that.
That's a fact. That's a fact, Jack.
No, I know, but I'm saying all teachers that taught in China, I don't think are indoctrinated by the
I just think
Chinese
there's
government.
questionable loyalties there.
Right.
But I mean,
Well, certainly he took
Maybe
a
not
page.
all teachers, but Tim Walz definitely.
Well, he took a page from their playbook, certainly during the pandemic. But yeah, that was a fascinating. Good find. Was it Bucky? Is that what his name was? Is this the guy from Little Falls area?
You
guys were at the booth a lot more than me.
I just want to. I really want to know who decided to put the writers of South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker in charge of writing our reality, because I don't think you could get more satirical than what we just saw.
Well, or you take V for Vendetta, as we mentioned already, Idiocracy. There's just so many parallels to things that have been done in the media. And of course, everyone made the comparison to 1984 in the last 2 years. What other comments we got there, William?
So this is actually pretty interesting. So
well, that's good. It better be interesting.
I hope so. So someone commenting said that she was on a bus at the state fair, and someone was running to catch up. It had the Dump Walz T-shirt on, and apparently someone was yelling at the bus driver to not let them on because of their T-shirt.
Oh, wow.
I gotta send. I should have done this ahead of time. Do one of you guys have that clipping? Bridget, you got that clipping of someone that wrote a letter to the editor. Do you have that? Sorry. Do you know what I'm talking about? The clipping that we had in our booth?
Please let me eat my cheese curds in peace.
Are you able to get that to Dawson so we could show that?
Sure.
It says, I can't eat my cheese curds in peace.
Right.
Oh, that is a funny one. That is a really good one. Pull that one up, too. Yeah, I mean, listen, we were so popular at the State Fair booth. If you didn't see the pictures, you just go to our Facebook page, which just shows overwhelming support. Walz had very little support. Scott Jensen. We were so popular that Scott Jensen, Matt Burke, Attorney General candidate Jim Schultz all swung by our booth.
Kim Crockett, Ryan Wilson.
Yeah, I didn't see Ryan Wilson. I got to meet that guy.
Yeah, he had stopped by just for a second there.
Gotcha. It was just huge crowds. The State Fair was giving us shit. That was funny. That was really funny.
I bet you there's some stone stele in ancient Rome where it's the same thing. It's some old Roman citizen. Can you stop criticizing Julius Caesar? I want to enjoy my bread and circuses.
Dawson, you do good work. I can't believe you're already ready. All right, Dawson's got the clip. There it is. Can we zoom in? Is that possible? It looks like there's that thing on the bottom.
And also, there's some writing there at the top. That was handed to me at the booth. Because an older lady had come up to us and said, I am so sick of the negativity.
Oh, that's she said that. So we got like a double hatred. Can't I eat my cheese curds in peace? Well, I enjoyed the appropriately upbeat front page article about the first day of the Minnesota State Fair. For fairgoers, it feels like old times again. Because this person probably didn't go during COVID. Things were normal again last year. You just didn't come.
Right.
I had a wonderful day there myself. There was a discordant note, however, as I lunched with good friends in an establishment under Underwood Street. My eyes were caught by the booth across the street, its front topped by a huge sign urging us to dump Walz. Below was an unflattering caricature of the governor holding bags of money, presumably portraying that Governor Tim Walz has run off with our hard-earned dollars. Hey, they got it. Hey, look at that thing. See there? That's exactly what we were doing.
Quote-unquote failures.
Exactly. Where am I? Then below that was now a row of signs ticking off the governor's failures. God, I couldn't have paid this woman to do a better job for us. This is wonderful. Sure. Is it a woman? Actually, scroll to the bottom. I just assumed
I think it's a
gender.
man, actually.
Scroll down. I assume gender on that one. Bob Patton. All right. We're assuming his gender. It's a man here. Shortly after, we noticed a small plane overhead trailing a banner proclaiming Walz failed. We and our fellow fairgoers got to enjoy this spectacle for the rest of the day. As I commented to my buddy and to several other people I ran into, I don't remember ever seeing or hearing such nasty, overtly negative political discourse at the state fair. Granted, I've only experienced the fair for about 3 decades.
Humble brag.
Yeah, humble brag. Actually, I probably have 2 now. Even if I agreed with the sentiments expressed, afraid I don't. I think Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan have done a commendable job through the unprecedentedly trying times. I just feel that such crass and ill-spirited messaging has no place at the great Minnesota get-together. And frankly, even if I were inclined to agree with the messaging of the governor's opponents, it would raise a big question. Do these people have anything constructive to offer?
Yeah, leave office.
Now I'm going to leave this platform and go watch Joe Biden's wonderful speech.
We got our very own DFL Martin Luther hammering the 99 complaints to our door.
Well, I could have paid for better advertising.
Right. And one thing I found interesting was, people like that assumed that we were negative. Well, what was our message? Our message was to return $4,000 per taxpayer of the surplus of your money.
Democrats
I don't know
included.
anything negative about returning your money back to you.
We didn't say
that's the most positive message I could ever think of $4,000 of your money in your pocket.
Yeah, we didn't have an asterisk with as long as you don't vote for Walz underneath it, right? We want it to go back to everybody. We're not trying to be partisan here either. We want the money to go back to you, Democrats.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. But I had someone come, oh, you should be investing it. It's like, oh God, yeah. Well, you watch him as
is Walz going to buy Dogecoin? What?
All we're saying, like, listen, okay, dump Walz. That's a negative message. You know, dumping someone sometimes is a very positive thing, right? When it's an abusive relationship.
Just not working out.
Oh, you know, Timmy, he's very abusive to you. You need to dump him. That's a positive message. That's what we're saying is dump this a-hole. Get rid of this guy. He's bad for us. He's not going to give you your money back. He's
hurting you, right?
He's hurting you. Get rid of him. All right, I kind of understand the negative context to it, but don't lecture us on negativity. My God, after Joe Biden's speech, don't lecture us on this thing. The reality is this is just politics, right? We're playing politics. They're playing politics. The difference between us and them is we actually care about the government getting out of our business, back to the roots of following the rule of law, the Constitution, protecting liberty, everyone's liberty. And what do they want? They want big government telling us what to do. And that's the threat to America. Like, I left the military 10 years ago after 12 years serving. I was an infantry officer. And I was like, I don't think the wars that we're fighting is the biggest threat to America. I think the biggest threat to America is domestically. These people that don't care about the Constitution, and I still this day think this, they're basically going to create a fiscal disaster for America. We're already seeing the starts of this by just printing money and issuing endless government debt. Like, that's not a path to prosperity, and the chickens are going to come home to roost at some point. And so that's what I think the biggest threat to America is. It's not the freedom-loving Americans who love this country and love the Constitution. And that's why we want to open up this tent to all these MAGA Republicans. Mm-hmm. We got to get going. We got an hour into the show. I didn't want to go much longer because we got a lot of things to do. Because we just wrapped up the state fair. It was 12 days. In case you couldn't tell in Bridget's voice, I mean, she put some work in. So first of all, guys, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that a lot of especially when they were coming up to the booth, a lot of these people would have no masks on, celebrate the mask mandate. And I'm like, well, COVID's still here. Why don't you have one on? And it's like, really, a lot of these DFLers and COVID Karens have the literal mentality of that oldies doo-wop song by the Crystals, when he hits me, it feels like a kiss. Like, that's how they're acting with Walz. Everything he does wrong, I'm going to figure out some way that it benefits me and kept me safe. And frankly, it's probably just coping with the fact that they had their lives destroyed and they don't want to agree with us.
Right, and also, if you've been buying the lies for so long, it's hard to wake up. It's hard to realize, oh man, I've been falling for everything for the last couple of years. So once people are that deep, it's almost impossible to dig them out.
Well, once you try to get the alternative narrative, because in Scott Jensen's credit, he was alternative to the narrative on COVID, and he wants to be on WCCO, this massive platform. They cut him off, and they go right to indoctrinating you on the booster shots. That's what's happening. That's why a lot of people are, well, I think I'm actually very optimistic. There's platforms like ours that are growing now. It's like there's alternative media. People can get a different message out. Dawson, put the camera on Bridget. That is the person that planned the state fair right there. So give her a round of applause, Bridget. Good job on that. I think it was a massive success. Do you have any regrets other than losing your other phone?
Well, no, not than losing my phone and losing my voice. But it was worth it.
You'll have it back, won't you? I believe we're going to go get wings later today. In fact, I should just mention, we'll be at Quinny's tonight. Quinny's in Matamita. So come see us in Quinny's in Matamita. You can meet Liberty Longbeard, and he's going to receive his payment of wings, which is the only way the guy ever gets paid, apparently.
Yeah, and we got to give a big thank you to all the volunteers and supporters who had helped us at that booth. We would have not been able to do it without you guys, so thank you guys so much for doing everything you guys did.
Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job.
All-stars.
My night shift people, you know who you are. You're heroes. You know, you had the rowdy crowd. You had some people walking up with maybe a couple too many. Hell, one night I even came back to a drunk lady trying to kick our booth. Like, it was a wild and crazy time, and the people that put in the hours and talked to everybody at the state fair and really helped spread the message, you are why we get done what we get done. Keep fighting with us because we got a lot more to do. Well,
hey, listen, you two, you guys both worked shifts. That was really awesome. William, I don't know what you do these days, but I'm at least glad you come to the show from time to time, but William hasn't worked with us in eons, so He missed out on the whole state fair. Even Dawson was out there. We got footage, another footage of Jesse going up to Walz's booth. So I want to thank everyone that participated. Of course, Dale, the guy behind this operation, also helping out tremendously. And I'd be running afoul if I didn't mention the co-creator of the booth, which was Michelle Even. She had very little to do with the booth this year, but honestly, Bridget, my job was much easier because of what Michelle designed. And somehow, despite being against slave labor, she made Donna Zinga slave, 2 full weeks of time to build that booth. So Don, also, thank you so much. You guys made it really easy for us. And then our partners at the Freedom Club that helped with the Walz failed stuff. That was fun as hell. It made a big splash. So we couldn't have done with all the people here. And honestly, from what my vantage point is, and I know we're going to go do a debrief of the fair after this, I don't know how we don't double down on the state fair next year. Right?
Oh yeah, yep. No, there was so much good energy. There were so many people that were either just curious or just wanted to know what we were doing, or people that weren't even necessarily pro Jensen, but we were tapping into something extreme with people because they were upset with how things were being run, and we were able to pinpoint it onto Tim Walz, and that was a good place for them to put their anger to, because Tim Walz is the reason that schools were locked down, that churches were closed, that we had the lockdowns and mandates and everything else. So we just were informing people of where to direct their energy.
And it's got to mean something. The fact that our booth was so popular and Tim Walz's booth wasn't, and Tim Walz was skipping on debates, skipping out on most appearances at the state fair. It's got to mean something. We'll see in November, but it's got to mean something. Now that I look at the sign back here, I got these snark comments by some lefties. Ew, gasoline's last I checked under $4. Your sign's wrong. And then I'd be like, last I checked, diesel is over $4.60. What's your point?
Yeah, it's actually funny. If you do the math, they say that unleaded is down 30 cents, and it's like, well, yeah, they offset the cost of diesel.
Yeah, we had to make that sign like months ago. So I underestimated that time. It's just like you got to go with some numbers, so we just decided like a 10 cents difference. But diesel's way underestimated, and we're on Machinery Hill.
I mean, I was telling these people, I was like, hey, look, if Walz gave the surplus back, we could afford a digital sign that updates to the current gas price. But unfortunately, we had to go with a more economically feasible model.
Oh man, and our signs didn't get stolen this year, which is a victory in and of itself. I'm getting a lot of messages. So people want those Dump Walz shirts, so I guess stand by. We'll have to figure that out. There you go, Bridget. It's your next job. You don't need a voice for that. Oh, yeah,
lots of people came up to the booth. When we had run out of those Dump Walz shirts, there was a lot of disappointment, but they were also extremely happy to hear that we were getting the message out there. So there's a lot of people out there that are waiting for these Dump Walz shirts to drop again. So
we were out of most sizes. What day was that, Bridget? Like Saturday or so?
Yeah. By the weekend, we had like half supply of everything at best.
It was double XLs on the last day, and then people are like, "Yeah, give it to me."
Yeah,
I saw one person like, "Yeah, pretty much your pajamas there. That sucker's gonna cover your whole body." Fun stuff. Just go to our Facebook page. You can see all those days. We're gonna sign off here. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook and you don't like our page already, do that, because Zuckerberg's not doing anything to help us out, get more people into our Facebook page.
Ring that bell too, so that way you know when we're live streaming, because it tells
ring that bell. You got to hit. So will they go
on notification bell on YouTube?
Well, I don't even know what that is. What is that? I'm looking on it.
It'll be. They'll know. They'll see
what are you laughing
screen.
at, Dawson? You guys realize I'm like the old guy here? It's crazy.
That's why I figured we'd let them know about the bell, so they know.
Ring the bell. Where is the bell thing on here? I don't see the. Tell them where the bell is. Someone tell them where the bell is.
It's right next to the subscribe button.
It should be right next to the
likes
title.
And subscribes and everything.
On the right side there.
So on the main page?
Yeah, down when you're looking at the video streaming. That's where it is.
No, I'm looking at the video streaming and I don't see it. I know this is very bad TV, guys, but if I don't know, they're not going to know. Oh, you're going to look.
Yeah, that bell right next to the subscribe
that bell.
there.
Okay, I know that bell.
Yep.
There you go. All right.
Ring that bell, folks.
Guys,
well, yeah, but show Action for Liberty's page. Jensen didn't pay for that spot. How dare you?
Yeah.
We'll invoice.
Yeah, do you have Action for Liberty's page? My God, Dawson, what are you doing? Well, why don't you show Tim Walz's page while you're at it?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we were showing the last video
Invoice
of
both
Scott
candidates.
Jensen. I think that.
Right.
I mean, good for them to actually post that video of WCCO cut him off. There you go. You hit subscribe. Apparently, we weren't even subscribed to our own page. Hit the bell right there. There you go. We all learned something here today. Excellent. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you